The mill has managed to survive miraculously, and it's so wonderful to have it all working again. Unfortunately, I didn't write anything down, so there was no instruction book. So when the mill was finally restored, how do we drive it? Every mill is different. There's no information, so we've had to work it out, and over the last 2 to 3 years, we think we're just about there. We will do some demonstrations later on. Feel free to come and talk to me. I like the natter.
So after the Beanies, the mill was taken over by the Harmers, who own several mills in the Sussex area. But before too long, the structure of the mill at the top began to rot, and it wasn't able to be used. The sweeps weren't able to be used anymore. So a steam engine was used in here, and the millstones were in here to be in this part of the mill to be able to carry on the milling. And that continued until around about the end of World War One, at which point everything ceased and the mill was just left. Until these two people came along. So how did it all begin?
Oh, well thought, Ruth, thank you.
You know, people often ask, how did it all start? And the like, and they very generously imply that we were in some ways brave or visionaries or something of that kind. The truth is far from that, I'm sorry to say. I cannot share with you a romantic story at all. We wanted to buy the house, actually, and it was a matter of this derelict windmill meant we could afford to buy the house at auction at Hove Town Hall, and so the house is what we wanted, and we had to take the windmill with it. So we began in a very unromantic way, I have to say, but things have changed over the years, haven't they?
They have, yes. It was a nice thing to do, but we really wanted the house, and we thought we'll be able to do something with the windmill, and so there it's a bit strange really, because people came to us and asked us what we were going to do with the windmill, and we thought, what are we going to do with the windmill?
Actually, on the night of the auction, when we got home, people, complete strangers started ringing up. I was thinking, where'd you get the number from? Who are you? And basically they said, I hope your intentions are honourable with this mill. Okay, who are you? And what they meant was, you did hear that the auctioneer had said you won't get planning permission for a house or a swimming pool or a tennis court or any other such thing. You have to stop it falling down, and that began our understanding that there's a deep running subculture of people who are fanatical about windmills, and they were equally keen to know that what we would do would be the right thing, and it then started us to think, well, maybe we should do. Well, to be to think we should do something.
So did you have to restore it?
Well, we didn't have to restore it, but we had to stop it falling down. That was the first thing. Yeah. And so, the Wealdon District Council had already got the structure of the steels going through the mill, and that was important to stop it falling down. But once we bought it, Wealdon District Council decided they wanted some more steels put up. So we had to pay for that. While the scaffolding was up there, we actually thought it would be good to secure it and make it safe for every passing person, because of the bits of metal that were still left on the mill were very thin, and they were flying off in very strong winds and really very dangerous. And so we had them all taken off, or mainly we did it all ourselves with help of a few friends, and then we boarded up the back because the rain was really driving in, and the brake wheel was rotting, everything inside was rotting, because that's the prevailing wind, unlike today. It's normally the southwest, and so it was a mess, and so we did what we could. What was right nice was that Wealdon District Council later on did give us a retrospective grant to cover that extra cost, which was
Actually, this sheet iron was really quite lethal. They were like razor-edged plate-sized frisbees that kept flying off, and we'd find them in the morning in the ground. And our anxiety was they'd be in somebody's roof or in through their window, or heaven forbid, in somebody's head. But that became pretty a part of the. It got us up into the mill, and therefore securing it with more scaffolding, etc. Which I guess was the first
stage.
unknown step. Really.
Yes, that's how you sort of got going.
It was. But after that, people came to us and talked about it being a very special mill, and it needs preserving and it needs restoring. And in particular, Rodney DeLittle, who is the author of Windmills of England, he came to talk to us at length about our windmill, which we really didn't understand anything.
3 hours.
Yes, he did. and he said that this is there hasn't been a windmill restored since 1892 that is authentic. This is the last chance to do it and get it right. He did say that.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, well, this changes things completely. I mean, and so it gradually sort of evolved that we weren't just putting back, a dummy windmill. This could be something better.
But as soon as people start saying that sort of thing, you can see the pound signs flashing before your eyes, can't you? And thinking, oh, this is going to cost a bit.
Yes, so Heritage Lottery Fund was just starting to get going, people were talking about it. So we thought, well, we better apply to the Heritage Lottery Fund for a grant. So easier said than done, of course. So in 1997, I wrote a proposal to the Heritage Lottery Fund, quoting Rodney DeLittle, of course, because he was an authority. And at the time, we realised then that we needed public access. So, as you do, we bought the piece of land next door with the help of my loan from my mother, so that we could have a separate drive, which is the driveway we all come up now for visitors, because we realised otherwise they're all going to come past our house. Right in our garden, and that didn't sound like a good idea.
So the lottery didn't think the drive was good enough anyway.
No, they didn't. So we were able to secure that, apply to the Heritage Lottery Fund. It took them a year to reply, and then they said, well, we approve this in principle, but will you please tell us how much it will cost? Fortunately, we had English Heritage who were very keen on supporting us. It was on their risk register, and it was awarded a grade 2 star listing. So English Heritage then stepped in and said, we will pay for everything that's needed to find out how much it'll cost. The main cost was the scaffolding that went up, and that was very, it was there for about 3 years or more. And it was important that everybody who needed to could get access to this derelict windmill and decide how much it was going to cost.
I mean, a couple of things worth suggesting, though, is somehow life is a bit curious, isn't it? If we hadn't completely misunderstood what somebody said, as in when they said, well, 150,000, you'll be finished by the millennium. We had a different interpretation of the word finished, I think, at that point, as we felt like this. In fact, it took 30 years and 1.5 million to get this far. So we were one digit out and quite a number of years out. I guess I share with you in the confidence of this room. Would we have started if somebody had said 30 years and 1.5 million? I'm not quite so sure we would have, actually, so your friends. But anyway, we did, having made that misunderstanding. But I have to say, just as B quite glibly says, well, I wrote the lottery bid and they wanted us to write to the English Heritage, and that was another £50,000 bid. If you've ever wrote a bid for the lottery approximating to 800,000, these are gargantuan pieces of work which I had nothing to do with. I should confess in this confessional. B really was the architect of that entire document, and the subsequent request for the English Heritage to have it credentialised into by their research. These are huge things to do. You'll be pleased to know the lottery do not hand out money just on the back of a fag packet. They want a lot of information, really.
So it's a gargantuan task to take on. Who helped you at the beginning?
Who helped us?
A lot of people helped in
Yes.
different ways,
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people, experts, and that was anybody that knew anything more. And you could write everything we knew on a postage stamp, really, about windmills. So anybody that could write more than a postage stamp's worth was classified as an expert. They helped.
Yes, we had a lot of volunteers who came along and helped. Certainly, the mess that was inside this building, it was a mess on the whole floor here. It was a general dumping ground for televisions and prams and rubble, and we had people helping clear that out and keep the building secure and watertight as far as possible.
I mean, one particular lady, very, very recently deceased, actually, June Axon. June came 30 years ago immediately and said, I want to help you do this. And June has done everything in this mill. I mean, she's done from clearing rubble to slurrying the walls, moving old busted TVs and prams and branches. She was a guide, all manner of things.
And then she did fundraising for us as well, and always did the plant stall, and just loved the windmill. And
so you'll see
amazing.
as the slides go by over on our left there, on your right, that there's people doing a whole variety of jobs that and that kind of helped with galvanise our sense of, from this complete sense of, well, this is just a big pain in the rear end, this thing is in here, to becoming more interesting. People were interested, it was significant, people were interested, we became interested, we became more motivated. Their actions were...
Yeah.
Although the actions, interestingly, all the volunteers seemed to sing from the same hymn sheet, whereas the experts seemed to have very, very different views about what the correct thing to do was.
Yes.
Their view was always right, except they just never agreed.
Yes.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you very much. We'll be back later for some more questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
So we talked earlier about lottery and sort of funding and that sort of thing. Did they pay for all of it?
No, sadly they didn't. We got awarded a grant of 770,000 to restore the windmill, of which they gave a granted 75%. So they actually say, well, you can't start until you've got the rest of the match funding. Mm-hmm. So we then had to approach different organisations, trust-giving organisations, that like Esme Fairbairn, English Heritage and various other ones. It gave us money, as well as fundraising ourselves, so we have money actually in the bank. So we have to have that all in place before the lottery will give their blessing to say you can start. So that took about 2 years. And in the meantime, we also were able to access funds through the EU from something called the War Partnership, which was set up by Wealden Council in conjunction with the EU. And it meant that whilst the Heritage Lottery Fund paid for the panels you see on this in this roundhouse, that was all they paid for as far as the interpretation is concerned. But we thought we needed more things for the visitors to come, like guidebooks, information leaflets, a film with a DVD player and screen, and all things like that. So we did manage to get that from the EU, and they paid in full, which was great. There was no match funding there. Yeah. Yes.
The thing about the lottery, though, it's worth bearing in mind is that you'll be pleased to know, ladies and gentlemen, they never give you the money. they give you this grant, they never give you the money. And so, for example, if you say, well, I've just bought this bag of nails or £1, and they say, can I see your 25 pence? And you go, yeah, here it is. They go, here's 75 pence then. And they do that for the whole 777,000, and they're on 60-day terms, by the way. So you have to fundraise. You have to put out your £1 before you get your 75 for 60 days until you get your 75 pence back, and that's for every single £1. So in terms of
managing the cash flow,
you manage
as
well as writing it. Yeah, I'm telling you, cash flow management on a project of nearly 800,000. it is not easy. You're running pretty close, and they really would not hand over. You had to actually show the money. And you might want to mention the project manager, who was particularly assiduous in keeping his eye on you.
Yes, that's right. Well, I mean, when it came to the end of the project, we had this automatic turning device, which now is keeping the mill safe, keeping it facing the wind, which is facing the wind right now. But before we got our final tranche of money from the Heritage Lottery Fund, the project monitor, he wanted me to provide evidence that if this automatic turning device failed, we could manually push the mill round to face the wind. So there is a little picture you'll see coming up later on of actually Paul using a crank to wind it. You could do that on your own once you disengage the gear, or 3 men, Paul and 2 others, were actually pushing it round.
Yeah, you could wind it, except the thread on this thing was so blinking tight. You'd be winding it about 500 revolutions for every inch you wanted to move it. Your arm would almost fall off moving this thing. But anyway, you could actually move it by this.
So
crank.
I took the film, I sent it to dear Bob Tranter. Oh, thank you very much. And he ticked the box. We were really pleased, thank goodness.
But the other thing about Bob was that the project manager and the restoration project, he in the original bid that Bea put together, she said we need a project manager for this. And when they're all sitting around the table and looking to shave bits off it, they said, no, you don't need a project manager. You won't need one of them.
When it came to us around the kitchen table with all their advisors, Bob Tranter says to the quantity surveyor, he said, oh, well, we need a project manager and you'll have to find the money for it. And I thought, no, we won't, I will. There isn't no more money.
The thing is that the person that the lottery appointed to represent them here was a delightful guy, but he'd never seen a windmill in his life. I'll tell you, swear, he'd never been anywhere near one. He did not understand anything about mills or anything about them. And as delightful as he was terrified. Every meeting, everything was belt and braces and because he was so anxious that such a big project would go pear-shaped on his watch, and all manner of things happened. He was, I say, a lovely chap, but just it always felt like Bob was out of his depth. It just which once you're navigating between experts giving you different opinions and the person from the lottery, etc. It was a.
So it sounds there were quite a lot of challenges in coming up with restoration.
Yes.
So what were your main challenges?
Well, there were lots of changes went along the line. The project had expected that we would have a fantail to keep the mill facing the wind, but the Society for Protection of Ancient Buildings mill section said there was never a fantail on this windmill, so you're not going to put one on now. You've got to think of something else, because we were not about to get up in the middle of the night and turn the mill to face the wind. Thank you very much.
Yeah, apologies for being wimpy, everybody, but 24 hours a day getting up was not on the agenda, let me tell you.
So they sorted out this, they designed an automatic turning device. It's unique, it's the only one ever made. Oh, wow. Yeah, and it's, and it when they first put it on, it didn't really work, and in fact, the ladder and the box that the automatic turning device is in, with its 2 lorry batteries and motors, was so heavy that it broke up the concrete track that it was sitting on. So we had to have metal plates designed that would go in a nice circle all the way around, because that was nice and expensive, to take the weight. And then the problem with that was that the algorithm to get it facing the wind didn't work. It went backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and it took them a year to sort it out, to get it to work properly. And now
it's underneath the track there's a metre deep of concrete, but the 33 tons moving under a weight just immediately started to rip the concrete up.
Yes.
Which one of the challenges actually is there were several types actually. There's the technical challenges, there's the managerial challenges, the kind of fundraising challenges. And we had people to help with the technical ones, but just putting a concentric circle around wherever you think the middle of this building is, and putting a concentric circle around it, it's not quite as easy as you might imagine. You can roll the tail, you can run it round and try and spot it, but just that simple thing.
Yeah.
And then getting the plates made and then screwing them down. a whole set of a
Yeah.
range of scales of problems from minute to
Yeah.
big of different categories.
But this mill was taken down and then it was transported to Binfield Heath near Henley-on-Thames. And they did all the work there on this converted farm, the specialists. And we went to visit it twice, with volunteers and people who were interested. And they explained us all the work they were doing and splicing this and keeping as much as possible. That was great. And then when they finished, they brought it back and reconstructed it here on site. And then it was all lifted up in one piece, which was quite dramatic. Really quite an exciting day, and everybody filmed
There's
that.
a picture just behind Ruth there. But there's several pictures over on the screen, but there's just one here behind Ruth, which swinging in the air
Yes.
as they had constructed it.
Yeah.
So that was, it got put back together here
Yeah.
in the end.
And you mentioned volunteers. What sort of things did the volunteers do?
Well, they did all the painting and they called it the slurrying the walls in here because it was getting a smooth surface that you could paint on. And that all the volunteers did while all the bits of the mill were over at Binfield Heath. And we were taught how to do it. We were given the wherewithal and brushes and things and slurry and proper equipment, and we had to do all the inside of the walls. We had to clear out all the mess that was on the floor here, dig out everything.
So guided by experts all the time. with what you
Oh,
were doing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, they told
Yeah.
us what to do, and it was volunteer labour which was match funding. So that had to be recorded.
A slightly different challenge actually for this second phase was that we had a board of trustees, friends really, but would take different professional roles, and they'd been quite strong in working with it. But as soon as the lottery took over, then they really took over actually, and I think some of the trustees were like noses a bit side jumping. Wait a minute, it's up, but they were great people, but you really had to, with that scale of joint, you felt a bit put on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not unreasonably, I suppose, given the size of the grant and what they knew and what we didn't. So the challenges of different
Yeah.
kinds.
So when were the public first invited in to the mill?
Well, it was the 9th of September in 2006. It had taken all that time to get it right, particularly with getting the ATD working properly. And it was really quite a special day, actually. It was, we had grass.
Yeah, the mud had gone. The bulldozed tracks had
And,
gone. Yeah.
it had the rail of fencing around, which was, they delegated this is Windmill area now, which is great. And the drive was done, and all the cranes and lorries and mess had gone. It was a great day.
Yeah, I mean, it did. It was true what I said to you about the beginning, how it all got started. But we'd moved with the project in our feeling about it, and by the time it opened on that day, B got cards from people around.
Yeah.
I can see it from my front door, back door, top porch, side window, up window, and that was a great tonic.
that's
And then
nice, isn't it?
people
it was nice.
coming up the drive, for the first time to see it. It was all a bit, but it was a bit of a lift really, and people say nice things, so that kind of makes you feel a bit better after for all that, So
And
that's
we
a
had
good thing.
enthusiastic volunteers who showed people around. It was really great.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Lovely.
Yeah, but it by then I think actually it felt like it had stopped being the Frosts mill and a community mill, a community project. The people had really embraced it. The ones that could volunteer did. The ones that couldn't send nice things, and yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Hey,
Thank
well,
you,
We'll be
Ruth.
back a little bit later, but we have a demonstration. No? Okay, so for our final little interview part, first question of this bit, you must have met some really interesting people in the course of the project. Can you tell us about some of them, please?
Lots of them, actually. We had Doug Andrews, who is a master wheelwright, operates from Vines Cross, and he has done all sorts of amazing timber things to this windmill. He's restored all the machinery when we got the second grant for that, and he's incredible. Can you tell us more about him?
Yeah, some of you may know Doug. He he runs. It's not a massive place, but he produces the most amazing woodwork. The guy is just unbelievable with anything from a finger post for the street to a windmills, cartwheels. I once saw him and looked at a cartwheel, and I thought it was a cartwheel. I said, you know, whose cart's this going? I said, no, it's going on an 1896 Mercedes Benz. This is going to California. So anything from wooden wheels, but here tremendous amounts of work. As you go further up, you see the machinery, which B had to separately fundraise for. It wasn't covered by the grant. But most spectacularly, he made the sweeps out of wood, and how you can make it with the curve on it, just as it's due to have, and have shutters that open and close as it's rotating. Quite amazing, quite spectacular, isn't it? If you ever need anything in wood, see Doug Andrews. He is just amazing. Actually, the wood story.
Yes,
about where the wood came from.
Yeah, well, where did the wood come from? Yes, you can't get a lot of long, straight, decent wood in this country, can you?
No, it's grown too quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, it has to be slow-growing timber, so it had to come from over the 50th parallel. So it came from Siberia. Just before the Ukrainian war, so we managed to get the timber out of Siberia.
It's Siberian larch, isn't it?
Larch, yeah.
Yeah, and it went directly to a firm in Austria.
Austria, yeah.
Who cut it.
Yeah.
And then it came to a firm in the north of England.
Barnsley.
Okay.
Barnsley, as they say up there.
And they shaped it and glued it as required.
Yeah.
And then sent it down to Doug Andrews in Vines Cross.
Who inspected it and sent some of it back.
Some of it back. Indeed he did. Yes.
And had too many, where the knots were in
it.
and too many knots, yeah. So they had to set it back, cut the knots out, and then. But yeah, so that was just for and those sweeps, by the way, actually were that second set was 70,000.
Yes.
And so the trust, as well as running the mill, are now trying to make a sink fund for the second set. The next set probably 15 to 20 years tops, probably, and then your guess is as good as ours. Another set of sweeps, 70,000 in 2024, 100,000, 120,000. So they're already trying to fundraise for that and the timber. Yeah, but just getting the timber.
Yeah.
And we had to have somebody to kind of hunt the world. The Canadians didn't have any. Quite remarkably, how you mean Canada's not got this right kind of this can't be true. but anyway, it's but Doug was responsible for that whole wood management.
Yes, he
but
was.
In terms of other, a whole set of another chap was Peter from over at West Blatchington.
Yes, Peter Hill. He looked after West Blatchington Windmill. Very helpful in the early days with us. Gave us support, advice. Told us a lot, and he was sort of like a normal person, not a windmill specialist. And it was really nice. It was just nice to be supported, actually. And he came and did talks, and was very encouraging to all our local volunteers, actually.
Yeah, and there's some curious characters around the windmill sub community of who treat you in different ways, and some quite normal people.
So you opened to the public in 2006. Has it been plain sailing since that point?
Well, it's been up and down. I mean, in 2007 we found we got dry rot coming through the floor here, and that was a real shock. There was no air circulating, and bits of mess had been left under the floor. It actually meant a year later, when we figured out what we had to do, was rip the floor up, and the volunteers did that. Martin with his chainsaw, and Mr. Beanie there, and then and we had to have a nice big bonfire just outside, and just start again. And now we have a floor that doesn't require air passing through
it shouldn't be like this, obviously, but a nice wooden floor went down with a substructure. But in fact, sadly, the people who put it, there was no air, but the people who put it down left old crisp packets and bits of sandwiches and stuff underneath, all of which in the end caused the most creeping, horrible mould to come along the floor and up. And so it was. It had come up.
Yeah, it had. But I'm trying to think of something good, and we did what we had when we. No, there are, because we opened the windmill, and it was a static restoration, which meant the sweeps would go round just on the lee boards we had. But it wasn't a fully working windmill, and we'd always wanted a fully working windmill. But, well, some of us did. But then the millwrights told us that we actually had to find evidence that the mill could withstand the projected force of the winds in the 21st century. We were on a hill and we were exposed, and the wind comes from the southwest, fast and furious. And how will the wind stand up to that? Remember, it's based on a post. So after a very long time and many inquiries, we were very fortunate to be put in touch with Jack Hale from Newcastle University, who is a specialist in stresses and strains on timber structures.
From the University of Newcastle.
Yeah.
Timber Building Research Unit.
Yes. Yeah,
At
that's right.
Newcastle.
Yeah, and he came to see us and said, I could do a project on this. And he did. He put strain gauges on the trestle, critical timbers, connected it to some old computers he managed to get from Newcastle, and I collected the data from there and put it on my computer and send it up to him periodically, particularly when there'd been nice strong winds, and then he could assess it. And it was worthwhile, because he proved that it would need stresses of more than 4 times what was experienced at 54 miles an hour before there would be any serious concern about the structure of the mill. And he got his PhD as a result of that. And we got the permission to put shutters in the sweeps. So then we set about applying for restore the machinery and putting the shutters in the sweeps to make it turn.
What it meant was actually, we had to go up there every day, or pretty much every day, check the readings on the strain gauges, which actually, as you go on to the next floor above, you'll see that the angled timbers, they're either under compression or under extension. So with depending on which way the wind blows, they're either getting pressed together or pulled apart, and it happens to both as the mill turns. And the gauges were testing how much compression and extension there was, and so every day come in, gather the data, send it to Jack for well over a year. Along with moving curly cables, which was
well, the curly cables thing is it's because you've got a mill that moves. It's a machine. It's not a building really. The whole thing moves, and therefore, if you want power in the top of the mill, how are you going to get it? Well, you've got to connect it, and then the way they left it, but the millwrights left it for us, was that you have a long curly lead which went through one of the hatches and connected to static part of the mill on the trestle floor, and hence you would have power. We needed the power because of the automatic turning device had batteries, but it was recharged by power from the main electricity supply.
And the microprocessors are on the 4th floor. So this may be an old mill, but actually it's powered by microprocessors on the 4th floor. Actually, the curly cable story actually is again B's efforts. Is that basically there was a wire hanging from the buck through the hole and plugged in on the space above. So, but as the mill turns, the cable nicely gets wrapped around everything, and so
until it suddenly pulls apart.
Until it pulls apart, yeah. And so every day B would have to go in there, get the ladder out, unfurling this cable from all the way around, up, down, round, plug it back in again, so that we'd keep sending the power up there. So as well as getting data, she'd be up and down, undoing the curly cable.
I had to get the ladder first and move it to the right spot.
Yeah, just to send power up there.
Yeah, wow. So what's it like having a tourist attraction in your garden?
Well, it's nice, but it doesn't feel a lot different. We had lots of people working in here anyway.
You can't like privacy, that's for sure. If you're a fan of privacy, move. It's
nice.
It's fine actually.
It's nice to feel it's alive, the windmill, and it's people want to come and see it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's part of the. I don't think it felt like that 30 years ago, to be honest. It's part of that journey. One of the messages I want to do, is to move from the position as it was when we bought it to now, and part of the multiple changes was. Yeah. One of them was just getting used to having people in your garden, and often Jeff and everybody else, they turn up because they're doing jobs, but sometimes you just get people you know, if I'm strangers walking around the garden and I say, hello, it's very nice to see you, nice of you to join us today. Was the gate open? Oh yeah, well no. And actually, just one story if we have time, was that one morning, one of the most unusual things was, I woke up, we found a camper van parked in the garden. So tents, people, camper van, that's a novelty. We've never had a camper van before. And anyway, so I go and knock on the door and hello, nice to see you. You know, parking for the night. Turned out actually it was Malcolm, the stonecutter, who'd come and arrived at midnight the night before and decided he'd park in the garden all night. So it was quite legit, really. But even then, it's curious.
Yeah.
So now, do you consider that your main work is done, or are there challenges still going forwards?
Oh, well, there's always financial challenges, and there's always challenges of finding enough volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, the structure is done as far as the trustees wanted in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It's an authentic restoration, and it's now working.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the mill that's here that you can see. That means we can grind grain into flour, and we can sell the flour, which helps bring money back into the mill on a small basis only. But it
does feel like we've arrived somewhere.
Yeah,
Actually.
it does.
You know, it wasn't a journey when we set off when we're heading for this point, but having arrived at this point, it does feel like looking backwards that it'll never be finished. But you know, the fact that we have music concerts in here, we have sourdough bread making courses in here, we have educational visit tours in here, we mill flour here, the community comes here. That it does feel like a marker in the sand. Although, you know, just running the mill, the trust has to raise 6,000 a year.
well, it's 10 really, because the insurance is over 4,000.
Just for you to be in here is £4,000 a year, which is raised, and then
So it's
the sync
constant
fund, so
fundraising.
the sync fund for the new set of sales and everything else, and then
Yeah.
Jeff wants some more money for this, and Marty wants more money for that, and all manner of things needs
Well,
to happen.
maintenance of a structure like this is constant.
Yes.
But it does feel at this 30th anniversary, and it's curious, it's come at the 30th anniversary when it's all come together. Education, music, milling, it does feel...
She must be delighted with what you've achieved, really.
We're us and the volunteers.
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we couldn't do this on our own.
No.
For goodness sake.
But it is. As I say again, it wasn't a journey we notably set out on, and it feels a bit like, you know, when your fingernails grow and you go to bed one night and they're fine, you wake up the next day they feel like they need cutting. It's like, what happened overnight? You know, something, it passed the point of such progressive incremental change that something, it feels a bit like that. The change in over 30 years was that slow, that progressive. You never can quite detect when it happened until, I guess, this 30th anniversary feels like, oh.
And we're selling flour, and this
Yeah.
is what the Windmills was here for, and that feels good. That part does. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, Ruth.